have a short presentation that I would like to share with you that gives a brief history of this institution, what it is, why was it established, what it does, and then we can go quickly through the processes, our processes in commissioning artworks or art projects, let's say, by the artist, and then how one can apply for our open calls, and also how one is eligible for our acquisition process. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that entails. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to share the screen. I haven't done this. Okay.
We can see your screen now.
Right. Do you see this presentation?
Yes.
Yeah. So Public Art Agency Sweden is one of the oldest art institutions in Sweden. As you can see, it's established in 1937. It is a time when opportunities for artists in Sweden are not so many, and many artists search other places and artistic scenes to thrive or to be able to work with their practice. So many of them leave Sweden, actually moving towards bigger European capitals where there is a scene and there is collectors and there is galleries and there is possibilities to also make a living with the arts. In 1936, the Swedish Parliament for the first time takes up and discusses the idea of the 1% rule. You might be familiar with it. I don't see you now, so I only see my screen. So I suppose you follow what I'm saying. The 1% rule is that is based on the idea that when the state builds, 1% of the building budget shall go to commission arts and art projects. This is both a way of making art available to society and considering art as a right of the citizens, but also as a way to be able to support artists, to give them opportunities to find work and live through their art without having to leave the country and find opportunities elsewhere. So in 1936, this rule, the 1% rule, is established by the Swedish Parliament, and in 1937, Statens konstråd, or the Public Art Agency, is established as the institution that is supposed to implement this rule, meaning that will commission artists when and where the state builds. So what do we do in general is that we say that we create and manage cultural heritage for the future through producing public art and acquiring it for the state's collection. And here I have to clarify that our collection is different from a museum collection. We have a pretty large collection. It's more than 100,000 works that has been collected since 1937. And it's a collection that hangs out in working environments, meaning mainly offices and other premises that belong to the government. It can be from small tax offices somewhere in the north of Sweden to government premises to all Swedish embassies around the world and so forth. Then we support the Swedish scene by commissioning artists to design public spaces throughout the country. And here it's also important to stress that it's not only Swedish artists that we work with, but the commissions are international. They are open from artists from all over the world. Everyone has the right to apply to our open calls. Then we continuously acquire art from living Swedish artists. And this is also another important difference, because the acquisitions that we do, they are targeting Swedish living artists doesn't matter if they live in Sweden or abroad, but it can be also non-Swedish artists as long as they are based and work in Sweden. But otherwise, we don't buy or we don't acquire art from international artists that are not based and not working in Sweden. Then besides this, we have a large program of book publishing, seminars, different research projects that we do together with universities in Sweden, sometimes international networks, and so forth. And as you see, like the last paragraph is about the core mission, that it's our core mission has to do with bringing art where people lives and works every day. So it's a little bit the opposite of what an art institution like a museum or a Kunsthalle does, because then it offers art to the public, but the public has actively to take themselves there. We bring art where people is and lives and works. So this is like a quick timeline of the different moments in the history of the Public Art Agency, founded in 1937. And you see the mission and the reasons why it was established and how it worked. In 1947, so for the first 10 years, the agency worked with the rule of 1%. And I have to repeat that this is a rule, it's not a law, which means it's not obligatory, but it's agreed and followed when it is suggested. So for the first 10 years, the agency worked with the 1% rule, but from 1947, the agency received a budget from the government. So it was not applied anymore, this rule. The 1% rule between 62 and 96, there was a special assignment from the government to fund art in residential areas, newly built residential areas. In 97, there was another assignment that directed the institution to develop collaborations with municipalities and regions in Sweden, which stopped later on, and now we work mainly with state agencies. And in 2018, there was a new policy in Sweden that was agreed and approved with a consensus in the parliament, that is called the Unified Policy for Designed Living Environments, that is based on a holistic approach taking into consideration not only physical spaces but also social and sustainability aspects. And there is 4 institutions that have been working with this policy, sometimes together, but quite often what these 4 institutions do contribute to the larger picture of this policy for designed living environments. And Public Art Agency is one of those institutions. The other is Argdes, the other one is Boverket, and the 4th one is Riksantikvarieämbetet, the Cultural Heritage Authority. So what we do, we commission artists for permanent and temporary art projects. And then we'll give some examples, but here is just to give an overview. So we explore and develop the interaction between contemporary art and public spaces. This is important to keep in mind, because sometimes when one simply says public art, then it's very easy to get the wrong idea what we are talking about. It's very easy to fall in the trap that you need to be a sculptor, you need to have knowledge about working with stone and metal and hard materials for art that will be placed somewhere in a square and something like that. We rather articulate what we do as working with contemporary art, all possible expressions of contemporary art in public spaces, plural, not public space, but public spaces. In this way, we want to keep it as an open question to also continuously investigate where do we find the public space. Is it digital? Is it physical? Is it at home? Is it in the shared space? And so on and so forth. And we do this through site-specific art, temporary interventions, urban development projects, as well as by acquisition of artworks and different publications, seminars, and discussions, as I mentioned earlier. So the two main things within this strand are the permanent projects that we commission and produce, and they are for new buildings that will be used for governmental purposes. By this we mean all the different organizations that belong to the government, including universities, including roads and railways, including the defense authority, and so forth. We work, as I mentioned, with everything from sculpture to moving image, sound-based works, and entire facades. And we engage established international artists as well as emerging artists who have never previously worked with art in public spaces. So also we try to break another conception when it comes to art in public spaces, that there is only a group of artists that has experience to work mainly sculpturally in public space that are the ones that we are collaborating with. On the contrary, we are open to all artistic expressions, and we intentionally try to reach out to younger artists and to give possibilities to try out working in public space, which in the end is a different experience than exhibiting work in a gallery or in a Kunsthalle. So yeah, there is many artists today who naturally explore different kinds of public spaces and questions about the public in their practice, and that is very important for us, and it lies at the core of our interest, because we want to explore these new practices and develop new working methods together with the artists. Here I will give only 3 examples of these different types of projects that I was talking about, so it becomes a little bit more tangible or clear what I'm talking about. So this is a permanent commission, and it's an integrated project, as you see. The project is called Future Island. It's here in Stockholm, in the Frescati area. It's a collaboration with Akademiska Hus, that is a government authority or is a government property developer. All campus areas in Sweden are built by Akademiska Hus, and almost all art that exists in those campus areas is commissioned through us. It's a long-term collaboration we have with them, and this is one of the examples of how we develop a project. The project was done by the architects collective UZ, consisting of Eva Pfannes and Sylvain Hartenberg, and Marietitza Potörch, who is both architect and artist. The artwork is a land art piece in this new developed area of the Stockholm University, and the house that you see in the background is the science house and science and knowledge house. So what the artist wanted or proposed to do was to create an artificial island that you see in the picture by using materials from the site when it was being dug up to create the foundations for the new building that was going to come up. They wanted to also connect to the organization that would come in, because the building is one thing and the organization that comes in is another thing. So the science department that occupies or inhabits the building is very important for us when we start working on the project, because they will be the users, let's say, or the ones that are there where we are commissioning a new art piece. So we try to connect to make a connection between the organization that comes in and the art piece that will be commissioned. Therefore, the artists decided to or proposed to create this artificial island by using a water stream that was running through the area, and the island itself is made of materials, which means stones, gravel, and flora that were dug up or that are existing in the place. But there is a trick in the island. As you see in this scheme, it is divided in 2 zones. One half of the island is artificially heated up with 5 degrees, and the other one has the temperature of the environment. The purpose of this was to see what will happen to the soil, the stones, and the vegetation on this heated up half of the island, as both in terms of visualizing changes that will happen to our Earth because of the climate change, but also to collect data that is then fed in the science house that can be used by the students that go there to follow how things develop, what happens to the vegetation, what happens to soil, and so on and so forth. So then there is an entire system that is put in place for this heating. So all the stones, they have pipes and holes and water that runs through them to heat it up. But the entire electricity that is needed for creating this process is also harvested in what do you say, in a sustainable way through solar panels and other stations that are placed around the artwork site. Here is another example of a work that started as a temporary intervention but then took a permanent form. This is a collaboration with a community in the neighborhood of Roslet that is outside the city of Jönköping here in Sweden. This was an assignment from the government in which we worked with artists and arts in socially underprivileged areas, let's say, in the cities of Sweden. And in this area, it was through an open call, so civil society could send to us ideas, descriptions of a situation they wanted to collaborate with artists to have an impact on. So in this area, there was a group of young girls that was a group of dancers. They were called mixed dancers. And then they had been active in the area for quite some time, but they were suffering from the lack of a place or a stage, so to say, where they could show what they did with their dance company or collective. And then in the beginning, we had invited the artist Joanna Billing, that is a video artist that followed the girls and made a documentary about their activities and their life and their efforts. But then this led to another discussion in which we invited the architecture artist collective called Mycket to start a dialogue with this group of dancers, but also with the neighborhood to create a public stage, so to say, that on one hand side would serve the collective for their performances, but that would also serve the community for many different kinds of purposes and events like gatherings and weddings and birthdays and so forth. So they worked together with the girls and the community to first design the stage that you see has the form of a cap, and it's called the cap. They use the color that is the color that the group identifies themselves with, which is purple, but they also built it together with people, and it looks like this. And they did several workshops with kids and families, and then they also put together the structure in place, and then had they had a number of different activities when they inaugurated it, but it's still in place today, and it's very much being used both by the community and still by the collective of the dancers. The last one, it's an example of a temporary project or intervention. It is by the Swedish-Chilean artist Valeria Monticolque. It has a very long title, and in a mix of languages, it's called El Rey gick ovan el rainbow blev en vacker rosa festmåltid på Kekas mantel. It's done in the city of Örebro, where there is a biennial for art in public space. It's called Open Art. But this belongs to a series of projects that I am working with, of temporary projects, that explore explore how artists work with rituals as ways of creating time and space for togetherness and belonging. So Valeria made this, as I said, she's Swedish Chilean, so she has always in her art worked with this non-belonging, so to say, or trying to find her position between two different cultures. Her mother comes from an indigenous group in Chile that is called the Mapuche people. So she has with her and uses a lot of the aesthetics and the storytelling and the different characters that one encounters in those beliefs, but also she has created her own characters inspired by them, but transforming them at the same time. Here in Örebro, as you see, she transformed the statue of one of the kings of Sweden, which is King Johan the 14th, that is in the central square there in Örebro. But it was not so much an intervention on the statue itself. It was more an attempt to transform the place around the statue, because we felt when we did the visit that it was a place that was abandoned and not used by people, while everything around it is very much used. So Valeria created a new place in the city, a new room, let's say, an open room in the city, by installing, creating like different installations, sculptural interventions, painting the sitting benches that the city uses in the area, and creating a new place that was welcoming, that would make it possible for people to find different uses of it during the duration of the festival. And in order to initiate the new place, as it happens in every ritual, so to say, that there is an initiation rite, she also organized like a carnival train, so to say, that set out from the castle that here is in the background, where the king was crowned, and moved towards the statue with many different characters that she had created, and that brought together a structure. You can see here in the background, and here you can see the different parts of that structure that then were put together and clothed with various materials that contained images, stories, and other objects that people from Örebro had sent to the artist that meant something to them. Because for the artist, this structure represents a kind of a mountain, or in the Andean language, something that is called a waka. Waka is like a sacred place that can be man-made or existing in nature, where usually the spirits of the ancestors live. So after creating this together with the people in Örebro, then it was placed on this floating ramp that created a new complex and a completely new space in the city of Örebro that was then appropriated by people and used during the whole summer. But let me go now through some practical aspects that has to do with an explanation of how do our processes look like, how does it work to be invited or to be selected for working with us or with our projects. So here's an explanation of what the process looks like for our permanent public commissions.
Eddie, sorry, just one second.
Yeah.
I propose that your presentation, if you can finish within 5 minutes, so we can ask a few questions. Yeah.
Yes. So I just go quickly through this. We have a preparatory phase, appointing of a curator, then a reference group, and the curator writes an art program, the budget is decided, and then we send out an open call where everyone can apply. The first application here, the first application is done by sending a letter of intent, a CV, and up between 3 to 10 reference projects. And then we at the art unit help the responsible curator, our colleague, to screen and make a short list. of artists that is presented to the reference group that is made of the commissioner and the organization that will inhabit the new building, so to say. Then usually up to 3 artists are invited, and then they get a budget and time to develop a proposal. Then we go through these proposals and select one of those artists that gets to realize the project. Here it's like a scheme or a graph that shows how this process is developed and how it relates to the building process, which is running parallel with the commissioning of the artistic one. It's a similar process that works for the temporary projects, but here the curatorial research is more essential and it's not connected to any specific building per se. So it's much more free and it tends to provide the artist with the best possibility to experiment and try out different things. As you saw in Valeria's case, a performance and a temporary installation in the public space. Here is a quick explanation, but I can send this to you guys so you can look at it closely when you have time. And this is also how we work with the acquisitions. We have other colleagues that are consultants. They are employed on a four-year terms, and they have responsibility for the acquisitions and for the collections that we hang around. Besides that, we also have a committee that is in charge of special acquisitions, and we as curators, we don't have responsibility for acquisitions, but we can suggest artworks when we think that there is some important artwork that we have seen that would be good that the institution considers for acquiring. Okay, so I can stop it here, and then we can open up for discussion and questions. Where do I stop this? Stop presenting here.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Yes, Rebecca, I see.
So I had quite a few questions actually in relationship to your presentation and to the institution itself. And if there are questions, put them in the chat so we can discuss them. I was interested in what you said related to the difference between commissioning and acquisition.
Yeah.
In relationship to commission, I looked at your website and I registered into the database also because to look at different proposals, you have another database where everything is listed, right?
Well, which proposal? Sorry.
The database for the open calls.
Yeah. Yeah. So our open calls are published on both our website, but they're also published on a procurement platform, which is called Tensign. And that is open to everyone, as I said, both in Sweden and abroad. Unfortunately, our open calls are formulated only in Swedish, but today I think it's possible, or we hope that people can use ChatGPT to get a translation of the material and get an understanding.
Yeah, of course. Could you guide us a little bit into what distinguishes a strong proposal from something that is irrelevant? So, because you say a CV and a letter of intent, but what does the letter of intent should do? What should be written about?
Yeah, so what is important with those, because as I said, the first step is to send these 3 different documents. It's a letter of intent, a CV, and reference projects. First, it's important to understand that it's not a demand that one only has to send reference projects from previous works in public space. No, you can send reference projects about your practice. That's what we are interested to know more, rather than if you have done something in public space or not, especially for younger artists, because we are aware that there hasn't been a chance to test or do things in the public space. But we put a lot of importance in the letter of intent or the motivation. We call it the motivation. So basically, that means that it's a paragraph or half an A4 that one has to write to explain why you are interested in these specific projects. How do you see your practice is relevant for it? You don't have to explain what you plan to do. We don't ask for that, also because that comes in the next step once the artist is sort of selected to develop a proposal. And for developing a proposal, the artist should get paid for the time and get a budget and time for developing the proposal. Therefore, it's important to receive as good or as well articulated motivation why you think it's important or you find it important and what's the relation to your practice. That also has to do with the fact that there is many applications out there, both from us, but also from other institutions like communes and regions and so forth. And it's a time-consuming thing to write applications all the time. So we understand that you have a portfolio and that's the works you have. So you send that portfolio time and time again until you have a new work and you update it. But it's important to update the motivation, because if you send the same motivation over and over again, then we won't look at it, because you know you are just sending it with the hope that somebody will look at it, but also just sending it, so to say.
Yes, yeah, that's great, because I looked at one similar project than the one you showed in your presentation, but for which is open currently. And so my understanding is that it should be, the motivational letter should be specific to, I mean, the site-specific component should be
Exactly.
motivated. So that is, you should really talk about how this site in particular excites you or inspires you,
Exactly.
and how is it in relation to your work. So in that sense, it's important to look into the details, and perhaps in other sessions we look at that, because I think one of the issues here, I give you some feedback also from the point of view of artists, is that it's relatively technical, you know, to look at these open calls. There's already quite some work to kind of decipher what really is this site about, and, you know, looking at the floor plans and different things, and then trying to, without visiting the place, you know, really having something to do with it. So sometimes it's immediate and it feels right, but other time it's quite abstract and you're not sure. So yeah.
Yeah, but as I said, it's not about this motivation has nothing to do with what you think you will be doing. You don't have to make a proposal for what you'll be doing. The art program that we send out is a description about the site, the history of the place, something about the architecture or the architectural drawings, and there is also something that we call for a curatorial theme or vision, if you like, that is more something that serves as to relate to. So it's in response to this that we want the motivation to be written. If the artist feels secure and wants to, can also write something when looking at the floor plans or at the architectural model, because usually you just see a rendering there. It's not the finished thing that you see, but it's more to be able to respond conceptually, both to the description of the place, the context, its history, and this kind of theme or vision that helps as a reference.
Thank you. And what are the criteria for this pre-selection in terms of quality? Do you have a criteria for quality of this letter of intent and the portfolio? Is there something to avoid? Well, what would you recommend?
I don't have any concrete advice on this thing, but it's good to create a good portfolio, which gives clear examples of the work that you are showing, and maybe also accompany it with a short text or description, what it is about, where did it happen, like when you talk about your work in that sense, because we always pair the reference material or the reference projects that are sent with the motivation. There we try to picture how the artist could tackle the situation or could tackle the assignment, so to say.
Yes, thank you. And do you have statistics about the average price of the commission for a project? Because sometimes these are budgets of 1 million kroner or less,
No,
but usually,
we don't have an average, because that depends. It's different every time. It depends on who the commissioner is and what their budget is. As I said, nowadays we work with a logic that is based on the 1% rule, but it's not 1% of the building budget. It's agreements that we have with some of these big developers on a yearly, but they assign a yearly budget for a number of projects, right? And then that varies from site to site. So that budget, it's not us that decides. It comes from the commissioner. Therefore, it's difficult to say how much it is. It changes every time. But what we have as a reference is that when you get the assignment to sketch, to develop a sketch, then the fee for that is 80,000 Swedish kronor. And usually the time frame is 2 months.
right. And after this,
between 2 and 3.
yes, and after this, it's possible to either move forward, or the institution says we haven't found any things that works for us, so we move the cost.
Usually, in, let's say, more than 80% of the cases, there is 3 artists or sometimes 2 artists sketching parallelly. The process is covered in secrecy, so the artists don't know who the other artist is. So, and we are also not allowed to tell. But usually it's one of them that is selected. There is times, there has been cases in which we have felt that it has not come long enough. Then we have extended the sketching period, so the artist gets more time to work further with the proposal. But there is one important element during this process. We have a meeting in the middle of the sketching period, and it's called like mid skis. It's like in the middle of the sketching period, in which the artist is invited to present the process up to the point where it is. And the point with that is to give feedback to the artist, to help the artist think about different aspects and different, it can be both conceptual or material or different ways how to realize and so forth. And this process always has 2 steps. It first is done at the public art agency, where it's all us curators and other colleagues that have knowledge for other aspects. And then it is brought to the reference group. The reference group also responds to that, because they are the ones that will live with the artwork, so to say. So this feedback is given to the artist, and then the artist has half, or the remaining half of the time to complete the proposal.
Yes, super. There was a few questions in the chat, so Maria, I will send the platform later. There were questions regarding portfolio. So the portfolio is your own artist work. It's not other people's work. It's your own work. That
Yes.
was Rebecca. And Maria had other questions in relationship to whether public art ideas could directly be proposed instead of answering open calls.
Yes and no. Like this, that as with every art institution, we as curators are open to studio visits and atelier visits. And that has more to do with the artist presenting the work. It's not about presenting a proposal. We try to develop everything from scratch together, rather than, we are not what do you say? We are not a financially subsidy institution. There is another one in Sweden which is called Curator. There, if you have an idea, you send it there, and then you see if your idea will get support to be realized or not. We develop things together. We don't give money to ready-made ideas, so to say. And that is a very crucial difference.
Yes, thank you very much. Zara had a question related to acquisition. So how do you choose works for acquisition? Do you look at specific platforms, or is there more through networks and direct contact?
as I said, it's not me working with that. It's our colleagues that are the consultants. Um, and I can say that there is one important criteria for them is that they are the ones that receive the applications from the Swedish institutions that want art in their working environment. So when they go out to buy work, they go with that in mind. So they work for a specific collection, let's say for the tax office, and so they know the space, they know the environment, and then they look for works that uh, could work in that context. And they are always mixed with works that we have already in our big collection. Um, and so it's, let's say it's up to those colleagues in selecting what works they buy. And then there is the acquisitions committee, and then they look for something that we call like strategic acquisitions. To give you an example, for example, I don't know if you have followed the work of Anna Odell. She did this video piece about the psychiatric hospital or and studies, and she was invited in a residency at the psychiatric studies in the University of Uppsala. That's where the work came about. But when the work was shown, it was really strong. So we decided to buy the work, and we started a dialogue with the institution that had her in residency to install it permanently in their premises. And that's why this is like a case of strategically buying an artwork with our initiative, without having to go through our colleagues, the consultants that buy for other things.
Yes.
And as I said, for example, like another example is you saw a small image of the fountain of Valeria in Örebro. And right after that project finished in Örebro happened this very tragic shooting incident where 10 people lost their lives. And now we have bought that piece because it's like this: for the temporary project that we produce, we don't own the work. It's the artist that owns the work. If we want to own the work, we also have to buy it from the artist. And in that case, we decided to buy that element and have had a dialogue with Örebro University, and now it's going to be installed in their premises.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Anyone has questions that they would like to ask live that hasn't been answered yet? I had a question. Is there artists? I mean, do you wish artists would ask questions to you, but rarely do, in relationship to the public arts? Is there something you would like to say, or that artists are the misconception about the institution, let's say?
I don't know. I think we have, during the last maybe 10 years, we have worked a lot to change that perception. And I think among artists, it has landed now that we work in many different ways. It's, but still, I mean, the artistic community, even though Sweden is not that big, it's still, it's not small. So we try our best to find forums to talk about this. Like what we are doing right now, it's such a forum. Another thing that we do is that we have started on a very regular basis now. Every year we organize portfolio viewings. So we can get to know artists, and then we take one region every year. So we move around Sweden, and then we invite other curators from other institutions as well to join us. So we are out there to meet the artists, and then we always start with a presentation of public art agencies. So in that context, we also can tell again how we work, how do we tackle the issue of art in public space and so forth. So we are working on many levels, trying to open up that questions to more than only us.
Super. Well, I think that's super clear for now. If there are more questions, so Maria and Rebecca have questions. Go ahead.
Thank you. You said that their best way to that you want to develop things together, and that you sometimes do studio visits, or like what is the best way to invite you to a studio visit or to an exhibition or an installation to see if there's potential to develop something together?
Both. I can't say which one is better, but always a studio visit offers more or longer possibility to look in depth at someone's practice. In an exhibition, you might have a work, or if it's a group exhibition or if it's a personal exhibition, you might have more than one work, but you might have other works that you want to talk about. So yeah, studio visits are important, I think, but also exhibitions making us aware of where and what is happening, so we can follow and be there. And it's good to send it to both the art unit, that is the curators, but also to the consultants that are the ones in charge of buying art. Even it might be that they won't buy anything, but they will register. And so it is with us.
So we find that on your website, who we should send these
You find everyone on the website.
Okay.
In Sweden today,
I'll just figure out for you.
Okay, great. And these portfolio viewings that you mentioned, how do those work? Sorry.
Those we do in collaboration with regions. So this year we're working with Västerbotten. So it's only artists that are living and working in Västerbotten that we are going to meet. And then it's the region that is in charge of making the open call and selecting the art. We don't select who we are going to meet.
Thank you.
Rebecca?
Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm thinking we have an election coming up in the fall. Do you have any thoughts or ideas of how your work or the work of Statens konstråd might change depending on the outcome of the election?
When I started to speak, I mentioned that it has already changed. So I don't think there. Well, yeah, of course, it depends who is in the government. What are the political interests or agendas for culture behind? And right now, this big change has happened, that we have been merged. So instead of 3 institutions, now there is only one in Sweden. In principle, it has been said that our assignments won't change, but we are in this process of creating the new institution, and that is supposed to happen until the end of the year, which in my personal opinion is a very short time. We need more time to do that, but on the other hand, it means that the election will already have happened by then, while we are in this process of reorganizing us. That is a very big question that is valid for everyone and for every institution. It's not simply for us.